We're dinking around with Eddie and Webby. Dinking around with Eddie and Webby tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Which paddle should I use tonight? The Mach 2 Forza or the Control 2 Forza? Oh, hey, how's it going? This is Webby, not Eddie.
And I'm Eddie, and this is our 82nd Dinking Around.
Oh, yeah, episode number 82. We had over 100 of the regular Eddie and Webby podcast. Then we ended that, and now we're 82 strong on Dinking Around with Eddie and Webby. I love it.
We appreciate it, just like we appreciate our friends over at Valère Pickleball. Webby showed you a couple of pretty sweet paddles that he has there. Can you show those again, Webby?
Yes, I've got the Mach 2 Forza and the Control 2 Forza. This Control 2 Forza is the brand new paddle, just recently came out. They've had a hard time keeping it in stock. It keeps selling out, but I think at the moment it's back in stock. But I have been loving this paddle, but I really have had a dilemma. I don't know which one I like better right now, the Control 2 Forza or the Mach 2 Forza. They are both great. I'm torn between the two right now.
I haven't had a chance to hit yet with the Control series, but I'm definitely excited to. And guys, if you want to be able to test it out, go ahead and go to Valère.com and use coupon code PB for life to get 10% off your order. Because guess what? If you're not playing with Valère, then your paddle might be okay, but it also could suck. But if you get it from Valère, you know it's not going to suck. Is pretty much what I'm trying to say here. So again, coupon code PB for life, 10% off your order. Valère.com, support a great company that makes great pickleball paddles and other stuff as well.
That's right. I love their paddles. Very lots.
Very lots. You know what? I love very lots as well, Webby.
What's that?
To find out what in the world is in that drink, what you got in that drink.
That's right. What in the world is in that drink? What are you going to be sipping on today, Eddie?
Well, all right. So I got a little story. We had to get some repairs done on the floor in our garage. And so basically they had to put plastic tarp up over all our stuff in there, including our beer fridge. And it finally hit me that our beer fridge is overflowing. I just don't drink enough anymore at home on a regular basis. And it's full of beers. Some of them have been in there for a long time. So I'm not going to buy anything new until I get that way down. So there's going to be some repeats on the episode here, including I found this in the back of the fridge. And Webby, you'll remember this. Griffin Claw, vodka and soda, Blood Orange.
Oh, yeah.
This was from Beer City Open, 2023, was it? When we had that party over at that hotel. What's the name of that hotel there? The
Amway Grand.
The Amway Grand. Griffin Claw was there. They had some left over at the end of the night, and we both walked away with a ton of Griffin Claw. I must have missed this. This was in the back of my fridge, so that's what I'm going to be sipping on today. And we've talked about it before. We don't need to talk about it again, but
yeah, I liked it. I actually just recently drank my last one because I had it, like you said, I had a bunch of it. Just recently drank the last one. I thought it was good. I really liked it.
Nice. Well, what are you going to be sipping on here today?
So I'm drinking something pretty interesting. My wife actually bought this for me as a surprise, and it's really cool. I like the branding on it. It's called Detroit Fan Zone IPA, and anybody watching on YouTube, you can see there's a bunch of Detroit-themed artwork on the can, and I love this type of artwork. It kind of reminds me of Mad Magazine, all the different characters, and everywhere you look, there's something going on, a lot of different Detroit references and stuff, and the color scheme is like the Detroit Lions, and right now the Detroit Lions are on fire. They've been super fun to watch, and the interesting thing, though, is I don't see who actually made this beer on the can. It says brewed and packaged in Little Valley, New York. But I don't see an actual brewery listed there. It is part of Independent Craft, so it is a craft beer. I just don't know who to thank for making it because it doesn't actually give a brewery name. But whoever did this, I love the artwork, and I will be sipping on that. It is an IPA. I love IPAs, so I'm sure it'll be quite tasty.
Cheers!
Cheers, everybody!
And while you're taking a sip of that, Webby, I gotta ask. Where's Waldo?
Yeah, it does look a lot like Where's Waldo artwork as well.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Maybe, I wonder, that'd be funny if they did add a Waldo looking type person on here. I wouldn't doubt it.
That's fun. Are you saving a little bit of those suds for later in your mustache there?
Oh, that's funny. Total beer sud mustache moment.
You know, Webby, now that I have a beard, I gotta be more mindful of when that kind of stuff happens. So I'm glad that happened to you and not me in this episode.
And that's actually something that I haven't called out yet in the last couple episodes. Your face is getting a lot fuzzier than usual. Is that like you're trying to grow out your beard and see how it goes, or it's just you haven't had time to shave, or what?
No. So when I started my initial 18-day away from home journey for Close Call Replay, I forgot to bring my razor with me. And I was like, you know what? I might as well just try growing out a beard. And I've kind of kept it going ever since. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. Like, it definitely makes me look older, and I didn't realize that having a beard is kind of high maintenance. It's not just like you just wake up and go type of situation. So
yeah.
We'll see what happens. But for right now, maybe through the end of the year, I'll try it out and then make a decision from there. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot more maintenance to having a beard. Like, even if you try to grow it out long, you got to make sure that you put oil in it to make sure it doesn't get super dried out and nasty looking. Sometimes you have to brush it. You have to clean it properly. It's just, there is a lot of work to it. I decided to just keep like a short length beard. That's been good for me. But even to look this sexy, I have to I have to trim and shave certain parts of it, because I hate the extended neck beard, because I feel like you can really only let your neck hair grow if you grow a long beard. But with my type of beard, you don't want the neck hair to keep growing. So it's just, it's a whole thing.
There's a lot of work to it, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got a lot of respect for people that maintain good, clean beards out there. If you guys have any tips out there, please let us know down in the comments below. And Webby, it sounds like you might have a shout out.
I do. A company reached out to us, Road to Pro Tennis, and they are a company that specializes in injury prevention gear, and they make the official sock of the 2025 APP Tour. So they actually reached out to us to see if we were interested in testing out their socks, and I'm always all about trying new things and see how it is. So they sent us some socks, and I had a chance to test them out yesterday. I wore them while playing really competitive pickleball for a couple hours, and they are the Ultra Grip socks, and it says they help prevent blisters and they help prevent toenail bruising because they have some gripping on the bottom. That's something that's different with these socks that I haven't had on any other socks before, is there are some grips on the bottom. And I never really thought about that, but it actually made a lot of sense, because I do get toenail bruising from time to time just because my feet kind of slip around in the shoe. Right. And if I'm running fast and then come to a fast stop, I feel like my toes get crammed up on the front of the shoe, and I have had toenail bruising before. And they say that the grips on the bottom are supposed to help keep your feet in place and prevent the toenail bruising. And they feel really good, great compression. And I do like the gripping on the bottom. I've never had that in a sock before, and I do feel like it helped my feet kind of stay in place a little better. So I am definitely a fan of how they were when I played last night. It was a good competitive group. Thank you guys for that. And they also included some super tacky overgrips, which I added to the Control 2 Forza when I played it. And I am a big fan of the very tacky type grips. I'm not a big fan of the dry type of grips. I like the really tacky grips. So I like these a lot too. So thank you very much, Road to Pro Tennis. Keep an eye out for them during the APP Tour in 2025. But yeah, thanks again.
I love it. And wait, what's that? It's time for what?
Now it's time for Memes of the Week. Yeah!
That's right. This segment is so hot, it's on fire. This is the hottest segment in all of Pickleball podcasts. It is Memes of the Week. Webby, what meme you got for us this week?
Well, this one comes from our friends over at Dink Different Pickleball, and this is called What Your Opponents Are Actually Saying When They're Talking Strategy.
What are they talking about?
I don't know. Some deep strategy, though.
That tree's one of the tallest trees I've ever seen. So this is a pickleball court.
Pickleball
A
court?
pickleball court.
Pickleball
A
court?
pickleball court.
Pickleball court.
Imagine if instead of a mouth, I had a paddle for a mouth.
Like your mouth would be a paddle.
Yeah. Check it out. It looks like my finger's a person and it's dancing.
It's like, yeah.
Hey, just hit it at the girl.
The pregnant one?
Yes.
Great.
Oh man, I love it. I absolutely love that. That is so funny. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, this has to be featured on Memes of the Week.
That was great, man. Igor does such a good job with his memes, man. I love it.
But what about you? What do you got this week?
Well, Webby, I actually went with Dink Different Pickleball. Guys, we did not plan this, and usually we're guaranteed to have at least one meme from Memes of Pickleball. But I don't know. Memes of Pickleball, you've been slacking a little bit. So both memes today are from Dink Different Pickleball. And I really appreciate this one because I don't know about you, Webby, but sometimes I get videos recommended to me and they're like these deep conspiracy theory videos that are out there, right? And it usually starts with them like looking at a map and zooming in on Google Earth. And so this one is called Look What I Found.
Okay, I gotta show you something insane that I found. You can zoom in on Google Earth and you can straight up see Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, there it is. It's right there it is. But wait, there's something way more interesting. Check this out. 4 dedicated pickleball courts.
Oh, wow.
What is open play like there?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Can you imagine?
Yeah, like being able to go there and you know, there's Guantanamo Bay, and then there's just some open play going on there from a bunch of people in the CIA. Sounds like fun.
That would be wild. I would love to see at least see some video footage of the games that go on there.
This is how you know pickleball has made it big time, when it's even installed in semi-secret areas that are government runs.
Right? Oh, man. It's everywhere. Pickleball has made it. It's officially made it.
It's official now.
Oh, man. That was great stuff, though. Thank you, Dink Different Pickleball, for providing both of our memes of the week. But, Eddie, I think it's time.
Now it's time for Topics of the Week.
That's right, Topics of the Week. And anybody who tunes in regularly knows that every once in a while we will have a guest join us, and that will be our Topic of the Week. And that is the case for this episode. I had a chance to sit down with sports scientist Dr. Erik Korem, and he has previously worked in the NFL. He has previously worked with a bunch of Olympic athletes. And just like anybody tuning into this podcast, pickleball has started taking over a big portion of his life. So now he's very heavily involved in pickleball. So we had a very interesting conversation. He told me about ways that we can help prevent injuries when playing pickleball. He also gave us some really good tips on how to deal with our mental game. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation that I had with Dr. Erik Korem. Thanks, Eddie and Webby. Today, we are joined by a very interesting guest. He is a former NFL sports scientist who is taking some of the things that he has learned in his profession and applying them to the sport of pickleball. And he has agreed to go over some great topics with us, such as discussing some science-backed strategies for preventing pickleball injuries, some mental fitness tips, and many other things. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Dr. Erik Korem. How's it going, man?
Webby, I'm excited to be here, and congrats to the Detroit Lions fans on absolutely crushing the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here, and thank you for the congratulations on the Lions. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
I am very excited to have you join us today because you have a lot of knowledge from other sports that are applying to pickleball. And first off, what exactly is a sports scientist? And what type of things did you do while you were part of the NFL?
That's a really good question. It's a new field in the United States, and I got into it in 2011. Actually, me and probably one other guy who was in soccer, the other football here in the States, were the first ones to really do it. It comes from overseas, and essentially there's exercise physiologists. So when I went to school, undergrad, grad, and even my PhD program, exercise science had its roots in like cardiac physiology, like how do you help somebody that just had a heart attack get back? And then they started blending in like modern day strength and conditioning a little bit, but this idea of like, let's look at the actual sport, let's look at the things that impact performance. Let's look at how can we monitor what are called training loads, like what are they doing on the field or in the pool, and then how is their body responding to it? For instance, like heart rate variability and resting heart rate in the morning, and then blood biomarkers and all this stuff. There was not a real science around sports performance. There was one-off labs like at UConn with Kramer, or even at Texas A&M was what I was at. They were kind of some of the early groups. And so this really started in the UK, and then the Australian Institute of Sport made it a big deal. If you're a big fan of Rocky IV, remember like Ivan Drago, like the
Oh yeah.
Russians were really ahead on this because in communist countries, winning is more like political warfare. So the Chinese have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into their sports programs because when they win in the Olympics, to them it's like exerting national dominance. So yeah, that's what we did. A lot of the things we did with the players. So for instance, if you're ever watching a Detroit Lions game or an NFL game, you're like so and so is running 21 miles an hour, and they show like AWS next gen stats or something. I brought that technology from Australia to the US in 2011 when I was at Florida State. Literally brought a suitcase of these devices, and we were duct taping them to the pads of the players. I had to hire a former NASA propulsion engineer because it was like getting
Wow.
millions of data points. And we created the first data model for the game. And then we were able to use that to go, okay, what's actually happening on the field? Then how do we develop training programs to match that? How can we regulate practice? And our team had an 88% reduction in injury in one season. And
Wow.
we went on to win a championship, and then it just kind of blew up from there.
That's awesome. That is really interesting, cool stuff there. So I'm assuming now that you're getting into pickleball, that you are starting to utilize things that you were doing in the NFL now in the sport of pickleball. Is that right?
Yeah, so I worked in the NFL, but I also trained over 20 different sports in my career.
Oh,
I
okay.
worked with tennis at University of the Pacific, University of Arkansas, Mississippi State, William and Mary. I've worked with Olympic track and field sprinters, and so here I'm going to throw this out there. I hope I don't offend anybody, but everybody was always like, "My sport is special. Like you got to understand our
Yeah.
sport." And yes, but if you understand how to reverse engineer a problem, right, you can really start to deconstruct pretty quickly, like what does somebody need to do to get better? You don't actually like, I play the sport. It helps if you can play it. But did Bill Belichick play football at a high level? Like, I don't think he played college football. I think he was a high school football player, right? He just studied the game, learned the technical, tactical aspect, and he's a guru. And then he had this guy named Tom Brady that kind of helped him out. But yeah, so we looked at pickleball. We're starting to capture a whole lot more data about what's happening on the court. And you can go, okay, here are the movement patterns, here are the different energy systems they're using. What are the problems? Like, why are people getting injured? How can we improve performance? And then we start creating plans and things like that to improve the outcomes from a physical and mental perspective.
Nice. So one of the things I know that you specialize in, I saw that there were some science-backed strategies to prevent pickleball injuries. So
Yeah.
are there any specifics that you can talk about with us here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you four things. I won't go too deep into any of them, but I just want to kind of give you some like high level things. The number one thing that pickleball players can do, the highest leverage action you can take to prevent injury and to help you start fast is to do a neuromuscular warm up. Most pickleball players do not warm up. They like touch their toes and go on the court, then they blow their Achilles out or their hamstring. Or I met a guy once that blew out both biceps.
Oh man.
I mean, that's
Oh.
next level.
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty. I am definitely guilty about not warming up like I should. So I'm going to be taking notes about what you talk about here. And to go along with that, one of my pickleball partners at a tournament a couple of years ago did blow out his Achilles, and he was out for a year. So yeah, that scares me. The thought of that scares me.
Here's the thing, like I can't say you're going to 100% prevent it, but you can mitigate against it, right? It's like if you wear a seatbelt, are you less likely to die in a car accident? 100%. Back in the
Right.
day, like in the 80s, I'm 44, so like it was a wild, wild west back then. Now we got
Oh
kids.
yeah.
safety seats and they're turned a certain way. We just
Yep.
learned, right? But with a warm up, it doesn't have to take super long. Actually, look at my shirt.
Be weird, warm up. I like it.
Yeah. So there's four parts to a neuromuscular warm up, and this is in the scientific literature. Research demonstrates that warming up and more frequent warm ups reduce the risk of injury. The more intense the warm up, the less likely you are to get injured. And it's like a protective benefit. So the more frequently you do it, the less likely you are to get injured. And doing it just once a week prevents injury. So what it looks like is this. There's four parts. Heart rate elevation. Get your heart rate up. You could do jumping jacks. You could, if you have a whole court, you could jog around the court for a little bit. If you're at a facility that's a lot of these facilities now have like weight rooms and stuff, and then they got the courts outside.
Yeah.
You can get on a bike or elliptical just for 5 minutes. Just get sweating. There's a billion ways you can just start to get your heart rate up. That's going to make your tissues more pliable. It increases the core temperature of your body, starts getting oxygenated blood to your tissues. It speeds up metabolic reactions, all sorts of great stuff. The second part is joint mobilization. This is like old school calisthenics. What you need to do is your joints don't get direct blood flow. What you have to do is push fluid into the joints to lubricate them so that they want to move a little better. It's called synovial fluid. So you can do things like arm circles, okay? Hip rotation or hip circles, knee circles, ankle rolls, neck rotations, shoulder rolls. There's so many different ones, but you want to hit the major joints, your elbows, your wrists, your shoulder, your hips, your knees, your ankles. The third part is what's called dynamic flexibility. There are so many weird positions you can get into on the court, right? Just think about all the non-volley zone positions, like you're leaning, you're bending over and twisting.
Oh
You
yeah.
don't want to be exposed to those positions for the first time on the court at high speeds. So lunging and twisting, squatting, lunging in different planes, forward, lateral, reverse, all these different types. You could do walking lunges, walking knee hugs to lunges, that kind of stuff. Hinging exercises, like you're hinging forward like you would at the no volley zone, hinging at the hips, single leg, RDLs. You can do all this in a 5x5 space. And then the last thing is what's called activation. What you want to do is you want to prime your nervous system, and you also want to get your tissues ready for high velocity movements. So pick a line out or an imaginary line, do lateral hops forward, side to side. One of the drills I like to do with people before you even start dinking is get at the baseline and do a 50% acceleration to the non-volley zone, break down, jog back to the baseline. Do 3 or 4 of these and build up the intensity and then start dinking. So a good warm-up goes from general, looks nothing like pickleball, to more specific movements. And then when you get on the court, you go from, dinking, you start moving back away from the net to driving to serving, and then you should start moving pretty quickly. But I mentioned Tanner Wallace before this, so we have a common friend, Tanner. Tanner found our app, Aim7, and one of the things we do in there is we have these customized warm-ups. And this is the early days. We put it out there as like a public beta. He reaches out, he's like, dude, I've been doing these warm-ups, and I'm winning more matches.
Oh, nice.
I'm like, why? He goes, because I'm starting faster and it doesn't take me 5 or 6 points to get going. Like I'm off to the races at the beginning.
Yeah. Makes
And
sense.
if you think about it, like, does any NFL, Major League Baseball, basketball, or pro tennis player just go out there and play?
No, they do
No.
not.
As a fan, you would be angry when all of your players are blowing up their backs and knees and we're left with like all the, practice squad guys.
Right.
So that's number one. Just warm up. Start with 5 minutes and, move it from there. It's also one of the best ways to improve your movement literacy, improve balance. The second part is resistance training. There's a very interesting paper that came out. It was with almost 8,000 participants, and they showed that if you do resistance training, the threshold was like twice a week, there was a 66% reduction in injuries in sports.
Wow.
66%. Why? It makes your tissues more robust. Your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments. We talk about all the Achilles issues that people have. It also improves your balance. What's the number one injury in pickleball? Fractures in the wrist from falls. It improves what's called proprioception, or your body's awareness of your environment. You don't have to go out there and do CrossFit. If you do CrossFit, that's great. You don't have to go like what I'm saying, you don't have to do powerlifting. It can start with bands, then kettlebells and dumbbells. If all you got is machines, 2 total body strengthening sessions a week dramatically lower your risk for injuries. And then the third one is load management. What do I mean by that? Pickleball is not a dangerous sport, inherently a dangerous sport. You're more likely to get injured cycling. The number one injured recreational activity is just going to the weight room. Because you see all the internet memes, people doing stupid stuff like at Planet Fitness. Like for some reason, I like Planet Fitness is like supposed to be like this no judgment zone. There's always just crazy stuff going on.
Right.
So what you see, just book it. New Year's, people are like, I want to lose weight. So what do? I'm going to start running, right? Or I want to get to the gym. So they go from not going to the gym or not running to doing it 4 or 5 times a week. Then they end up with like knee tendonitis, shin splints, elbow problems, and then like 3
Yeah.
weeks later, they're either at the doctor or they're done.
Right.
Because pickleball is a easy to pick up game, people go from not playing to playing 5 times a week, and then they get hurt or injured or unbelievably sore. So here's my general rule of thumb: slow cook it. Don't get far from it. So I'm from Texas. We smoke barbecue.
Oh yeah.
The hardest meat to cook is a brisket. It's the best though. Like in Texas, you're judged on brisket, like whether it's Franklin's barbecue or Black's barbecue, whatever.
Right.
People will line up for 3 hours to get a good brisket because it takes 10 hours. I don't know, there's like secrets behind how this is done. If I put a brisket in the microwave, what are you gonna get?
Well, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be like leather.
Yeah, the human body's the same way. If you microwave the process, you're gonna get a microwave product. If you slow cook it and you never get far from it, your body's gonna have a chance to adapt. So let's say you pick up pickleball and you're like, I'm playing 2 hours a week. I call it a guide of 10%. Try not to increase more than 10% a week. So maybe the next week, maybe pump it up 20 minutes. If all of a sudden you got a tournament you want to prep for, don't just go, I'm going to go from 2 to 5 times a week immediately. Give yourself enough time, especially if you're going to do a 3-day tournament. Because what's the worst case scenario is there's a lot of people and you win every day and you have to play 5 20 to 30-minute matches. That's when you're at a lot of risk for injury.
Right.
So you have to slowly increase over time. And then the final one is, so we got warm up, resistance training. Don't try to increase by more than 10% per week. If you just started and it's 60 minutes the first time, you don't have to add like 5 minutes the next week. Just be realistic. Is technique. And that's not my expertise, but when I first started playing pickleball, my elbow started hurting. And it was because I had bad technique on my serves and my drives. And I got a pickleball coach to take a look at it. She's like, yeah, like your arm, like you're just all arm in this thing, that your arm is not a whip. You're not using your hips, like any sport. It starts with your feet, rotation through your hips, and let your arm just kind of fall through. Did that, a little bit of rehab, it was gone, never had a problem since. So, and all 4 of those things are backed up by the literature. Warm up, resistance training, manage your training load, and have solid technique. Find a good expert to coach you up. Doesn't have to be your partner, but I would invest in 1 or 2 good lessons.
Yeah, that is great stuff. It definitely makes a lot of sense. And like I said before, I am guilty of not warming up before I play. I definitely need to. And even my daughter, like she played softball in high school, and when she and I started playing pickleball together, especially when we do tournaments and stuff, she's always doing her stretches, doing different things, warming up, and I'm always just going right out to the court waiting for her to finish doing her stretches and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I should probably start doing stuff like that, because yeah, I do know a lot of people that have gotten injured. And like I said, my buddy blew out his Achilles right like during a tournament one time, and he was in very good shape. At least he looked like somebody who was in very good shape. So that was very scary and a big rude awakening for me. So yeah, I think talking to you, it's really getting through to me, and I really am gonna change. I'm gonna start doing some warm ups and stuff. And I know you mentioned that AIM 7 app. What can you tell us about that? Because I know you are you the creator of the app, or
Yeah,
okay, nice. And what exactly is that app? Is it like pickleball specific, or is it for like any sport? Or
it's pickleball specific. So we took all the lessons we learned in human performance and we wanted to bring ultra personalized wellness solutions to anybody. And so what AIM 7 does, it's actually the number one pickleball performance app in the App Store right now,
oh, nice.
to help you win more, recover faster, and mitigate against pain and injury. So we have ultra personalized warm-ups and cool downs. So you can go in there and be like, I've got 5 minutes, I've got a 5x5 space, and I want it to be an easy warm-up. Click start, you watch the videos, there's a pro taking you through it. We have cool downs. There's a lot of joint pain in the game. Elbow, back, hip, ankle. We have 12-week mobility programs with Dr. Kyle Richmond for every major joint in the body. We have ultra personalized resistance training programs from like, I've never worked out and all I have is my body weight at home to I have a full gym, 60 minutes, 3 times a week. And then what we do is we manipulate your training every day based off of how your body's adapting to stress. It's unique IP that we developed. If you have a wearable, you can plug it in and we make that wearable like on steroids. And then we built a full suite of mental performance tools to improve your focus, boost your confidence, really just to give you a mental edge. So we went out and got the former senior psychologist for the US Olympics, the former head of wellness and development for the Toronto Raptors. We built all this like masterclass education and we have all the tools in there. So it's really a not like a one-stop shop for pickleball players to improve their performance. And bigger than that, we're helping people. Like the mission of the company is to empower people to live healthy and impactful lives. And I saw pickleball as a market, a group of people that were underserved. And one of our app users is a neuroscientist at UCLA. And she's a teaching pro out in Los Angeles. She reached out to me. She goes, Erik, I really like this and I see what you're doing. There's research on longevity and how racket sports are one of the best sports for longevity. So they said, can we look at de-identified data and do an analysis to see if the app is really helping people? And what we found was after 90 days, people had slept better, 17% better sleep, 17% reduction in soreness, a 20.5% reduction in stress. They had a better mood. They were more motivated. So UCLA just funded a $20,000 study with
Oh,
us.
wow. Nice.
And what I'm going to do is we're actually still recruiting participants. If any of your listeners want to use our app free for 90 days, UCLA is paying for it. I'll give you a link and you can share it.
Yeah, definitely. That's very cool. So yeah, everybody tuning in, make sure you look at the links in the description below. I'm sure we'll have that link down there.
So you got a free gift. Who would have known? 3 months. Free
Right?
gift. Yeah.
No, that sounds awesome. I will definitely be checking out the app. Man, I feel like there are so many topics that we could discuss. I know we don't have a whole lot of time left here today, but I think we should maybe have you back for some recurring segments if you're interested. And
I'd love to do that.
we could maybe do some polls from our audience and see what kind of specific topics people want to hear you talk about. Because yeah, I feel like we could talk for hours about all the different tips and advice that you have for us. But one thing I do want to talk about before we go is mental fitness tips, because that is another area that I struggle with big time.
Can you tell me exactly what you're struggling with?
I would say most specifically tournaments. I feel like I can never get rid of my tournament jitters. I mean, after a few games maybe, but like at the first couple games in a tournament, I always make boneheaded mistakes that I normally don't, and I feel like I'm stiff. I feel like I don't play how I normally play. I could play rec play, and I'll feel like a 4-0, maybe even a 4-5 player. But then my first 2 games of a tournament, it's like I forget how to play, and I'm like a 3-0 player at best. And it's like, what? Why does this happen? And I feel like I've been playing pickleball for 7 years now. Been doing tournaments for at least 4, and I can't shake the nerves when it first comes into pickleball. And all I can think of is like, all right, don't mess up, and of course that makes me mess up.
Well, I've got some good news for you, okay? You're not alone, first of all. There is a myth that the best in the world do not experience, like in sports or whatever, do not experience uncomfortable thoughts, emotions, and feelings. That's a total lie. I can't, there was players I worked with in the NFL that would throw up before every game. It was just kind of the thing. There's one guy in particular, and he was a total beast. You would know if I told you who he was. But here's what the research shows us. If the outcome of a future event is uncertain, important, and you're going to be judged on that outcome, you should expect to feel uncomfortable. So a tournament, it's uncertain, it's important to you, and you're going to get judged. There's your winning or losing, right?
Right.
Expect to feel uncomfortable. It's why public speaking is nerve-wracking for you and sometimes for the audience, especially in that first minute. If they know,
Oh yeah.
they're like, oh my gosh, is this thing gonna blow up? And so like the best thing you can do in public speaking is get people to laugh immediately. It kind of diffuses
Yeah.
everything. I'm going to tell you a quick story. There's a guy named Sir Chris Hoy. He's the greatest Olympic cyclist of all time, 6 Olympic gold medals. This guy's the GOAT. Somebody asked him what it felt like to race in an Olympic finals, and he said it felt like he was going to the gallows, like he was going to be executed.
Oh man.
And I've coached Olympic gold medalists, and one of them, Veronica Campbell Brown, is one of only a couple women that's ever won back-to-back 200-meter golds in the 200-meter sprint. She's from Jamaica. And she would tell me if I didn't feel nervous, I knew something was wrong. But the deal is what you want in these situations is control of your attention. So mental fitness is the ability to be consciously present, to process information without bias. This empowers you to respond quickly and rationally to changing circumstances, and this is the key part, through committed actions anchored in your training and in your values. So when you step into that court, you're in a tournament, pressure's up, right? Whether it's real or not, you're feeling it. Totally
Right.
normal. Your vantage point, all of a sudden you get tunnel vision. All the options that used to be available to you are now a lot much smaller, and you're no longer taking action anchored in all your training. So what you want is control of your attention, because as Dr. Peter Haberl says, attention is the currency of performance. Every great athlete wants one thing when when the bullets are flying, they want control of their attention. Because if you go back to Sir Chris Hoy, he said, but then I would shift my attention to my grip on the steering wheel, my butt in the seat, my feet in the clips, and then he's ready to go. Do you think Michael Jordan felt it? Of course he did. But he had control over his attention. He wasn't afraid. So one of the best things you can do if you want to have more control of your attention, we'll just close with this, and we can come back and talk more about this later, is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is not this woo-woo Eastern floating off the ground, whatever. It is, as a matter of fact, when I visited Peter at the U.S. Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, I mean, they had these great labs, amazing weight rooms, all these great facilities. I said, would you show me your mental performance training area? It was an empty room because the gym was in your mind. And mindfulness, you can practice it several ways. Typically, you're just honing in on some type of physical sensation. So you could close your eyes and focus on your breath. And all you're doing is observing your breath as it goes in and out. It's hard at first. You're going to try to manipulate it. But then when you're doing this, let's say you do it for 7 or 8 minutes, your mind's going to wander off somewhere and start thinking about something. When that happens, don't judge yourself. Just go, oh, I'm thinking about this. Bring my thoughts back to my breath. That is where the changes occur in your brain. Research in Amisha Jha's lab at the University of Miami shows that mindfulness training, 12 minutes, 5 times a week, literally rewires your brain. They see structural changes in your brain. Because now that I know that I'm thinking about oh my gosh, the pressure's on, I can go, okay, I know that I'm not comfortable, but now I'm going to shift my attention to the action that I can take, and I'm going to focus on that action. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
That whole thing right there will flip the paradigm. And, I'm not trying to just sell products here, but we built all of this into our app. the education. Dr. Haberl does a whole master class on this. And then we put the tools in there. And when talent is equal in any sport, the winner is always the one that's dialed in between their ears. I'll give you one more thing. Who do you think in the history of the 100-meter dash has run more sub 10-second 100-meter dashes?
Oh man, I'm not good with names of
Who's the
Olympians.
most famous Olympic sprinter of all time,
Oh,
man?
Carlos is the name that popped into my head, but
Most people would guess Usain Bolt. He has the world record. It's a guy named Osafa Powell. Osafa Powell is technically, from a technique perspective, like technically one of the greatest sprinters of all time. And he would go race in these like obscure events and he would run like crazy fast. As soon as he got on the track with Bolt or any of these other guys, he'd always lose. It was a no-brainer. He was just going to lose. Everybody knew it. He looked like a scared puppy. And so, like, whether it's a pickleball, whether it's at the office, whatever, everybody feels pressure. If you can train your attentional control, you can regain control and you can take positive actions anchored in your training and in your values.
nice. I can't wait to listen back to this episode so I can really absorb everything you went over and really try to practice it because one, I'm going to start warming up before I play. That's going to be huge. And then with the mental exercises you talked about, I feel like that could be huge. So yeah, this is awesome. This was great stuff. I think anybody tuning in is going to get a lot of value out of it. And like I said, I would love to have you back again, talk about some
Please.
specific topics. But one more thing before we part ways. I know before we started recording this, you had mentioned a podcast that you host. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how people can find that and what it's called and what it's about?
Yeah, it's called The Blueprint. We're 4 years in, 500 something episodes. Have you ever heard of
Wow.
Andrew Huberman? He's got like the #1 or #2 podcast in the world. We distill cutting edge science, leadership, and life skills into simple tactics for busy people. It's not a 3-hour podcast. I bring on world-class experts in leadership, health, performance, and we do it in 15 minutes.
Nice.
And been doing it for a while. I've just been very blessed to have some amazing guests. But a few months ago, probably 3 months ago, I started doing once a week or every other week. I'll do something on pickleball that's very specific to the human performance element, or I'll bring on a top pro and kind of not talk about the game. I'm not really interested in all the drama. I'm interested in like peeking behind the curtain of elite performance.
Yeah.
And so it's called The Blueprint. You can listen to it on any podcast network, Apple, Spotify. And then if you want to learn more about AIM7, it's aim7.com, but I'm going to send you this link. So if anybody's listening, they can sign up for free. We're AIM7PB on Instagram. And if you want to follow me, it's Erik Korem on Instagram or Twitter, whatever that thing is.
Nice. Well, that is some great information. I will definitely be checking that out, and I'm sure a lot of our audience will as well. But Dr. Erik Korem, thank you very much for joining us. This has been great. A lot of amazing information we got here, and I'm sure you guys will see Dr. Erik here again in the future because there's so much more I want to talk to him about. We just didn't have time for it tonight, but I will gladly have you on again to talk about it. And like I said, maybe we'll take a poll from our audience, see what kind of specific topics people want to hear you talk about, and maybe have a Q&A session or something like that. What do you think?
I'd love to do it. I'd be honored to come back.
Nice. Well, thanks again for joining us, but back to you, Eddie and Webby.
Man, Webby, another really interesting conversation that we've been able to have here on Dinking Around. What a cool experience.
Yeah, that was awesome. Very interesting guy. I definitely want to check out that AIM7 app that he talked about. And like he mentioned, make sure you guys look at the link in our description because that will give you a chance to test out the app for free, see if you like it. And then also, like we talked about, we could always have him come back and talk about specific topics. So if anybody tuning in wants to see Dr. Erik come back, let us know what kind of topics you would like to have him talk about, and we can do that. Maybe we can have a Q&A session. But I feel like he could become like our Dr. Phil or our Dr. Oz, like how Oprah used to have. So that'd be kind of interesting. So, but yeah, that was super fun. Very interesting getting a chance to talk to him. But hope you guys liked it.
Well, I certainly did. And you know what else I like? Staying hydrated. Webby, how do you like to stay hydrated?
Well, other than drinking beer, my favorite way to stay hydrated is by drinking some Electrolyte Supreme from Jigsaw Health. I like to drink a bottle before I play pickleball. And then after I sweat like crazy, I like to drink another bottle when I'm done playing, and it helps me big time.
Guys, down here in Florida, water sometimes just isn't enough to keep you hydrated, which is why I also like to stay hydrated with Pickleball Cocktail from Jigsaw Health. Their blue raspberry is my favorite flavor, but I also use a ton of other products on a daily basis from Jigsaw Health because they make me feel good. And at Jigsaw Health, it's fun to feel good. What else feels good is saving money and helping us out. And you can do that by going to jigsawhealth.com and using coupon code PP for life 10 to get what, Webby?
You're going to get yourself 10% off your order, and it's going to show us some support in the process, which we always appreciate.
That's right. Not only is Jigsaw Health a great company to keep you healthy and make you feel good, they're also obsessed with pickleball. And it's always good to support brands who are as committed to and obsessed with pickleball as we are. So again, jigsawhealth.com, coupon code PB for life 10. Get yourself some good stuff. Well, Webby, that was a great episode and all, but I got to know your
Closing thoughts.
So what did we learn today? Well, we learned what your opponents are actually saying when they're talking strategy. We also learned that even some of the most secretive government locations in the world have dedicated pickleball courts. And I had a chance to sit down with Dr. Erik Korem, who gave us some very interesting tips on how to prevent injuries when playing pickleball and ways to help with our mental game. But I thought this was a very fun episode. Always great connecting with you, Eddie, and I can't wait for the next one.
That's right. I don't know when we're going to be able to do the next one. My schedule is going to get a little bit crazy from now through the beginning of December, but hopefully we'll get a chance. And maybe this is a good opportunity for you to be able to do the one with Addison that you've been talking about.
Yeah, there's a very good chance that will be one of, if not the next episode after this one. So stay tuned for that. It'll be Dinking Around with Addie and Webby.
I love it. And on that note, Eddie, not Addie.
And until next time, this is Webby, not Addie or Eddie, signing off.
Yeah.
Well, we're dinking around with Eddie and Webby. Dinking around with Eddie and Webby tonight.
Oh, yeah.